In April, Nigeria holds presidential elections. Few believe it will mark a new beginning for its many desperate people. My guest today on Hard Talk is Ibrahim Shekarau, a presidential candidate for the opposition All Nigeria People's Party, the ANPP. Since 2003, he's been governor of Kano, one of Nigeria's most important states. He governs through Sharia Islamic law. So how can he aim to reduce religious tensions that have seen hundreds killed in the past year alone and unite a country that's blighted by separatist movements? Ibrahim Shekarau, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you very much.
Why do you believe you deserve to be president of Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. I think history has shown that people would like to come from known to the unknown. I've been governor of Kano State for the last 8 years, and we've done quite a lot to improve and change the life of the citizens of Kano State. And I believe what the problem of Kano is about the problem of virtually every state of Nigeria.
Are you confident that these elections are going to be free and fair? Because the last ones in 2007 were considered by many to be the most fraudulent in Nigeria's history.
Well, I think I'm very confident that the April elections this year is going to be very credible for a number of reasons. One, there is a lot of general awareness and agitations by very well-meaning citizens of Nigeria who would want to have a change, who would want to come away from the previous fraudulent elections that we used to have. So I think the new agitation now is every vote should count. There should be one man, one vote. And this seemed to cut across the various regions and, of Nigeria.
But elections are one thing. They don't deliver good government. You yourself have said about 80% of Nigeria's people have completely lost faith and confidence in government.
That's correct.
The renowned author Chinua Achebe has said that Nigeria's history has been littered by a failure of leadership.
That's correct.
You're saying yes, but you are a political leader yourself. You're part of that collective failure, aren't you?
You see,
but aren't you part of that collective failure then? You're saying yes, yes.
I agree with you 100%, and I've been saying this even right home. People who have been following up my arguments all along, long before I came into the political arena, I've been arguing that 80–90% of our problem is a problem of leadership. And this is exactly one of the factors that is propelling some of us into this contest to bring a change, to restore hope, to restore confidence in governance. This is one of the most important dividends of democracy that I would want to give to Nigerians.
And one of the most important dividends of democracy, many would argue, is that it delivers some kind of prosperity for its people. And look at Nigeria. I mean, one figure that was given by the World Bank not so long ago is that 1% of Nigeria's population owns about 80% of the country's wealth.
No, this is exactly...
But I mean, that's a hideous statistic, isn't it?
Absolutely, this is very, very true, but that is exactly what the trend would want to change. You see, we must give Nigerians confidence. There must be some sense of transparency, some spirit of accountability. This is what Nigerians are asking for. What do you do with the resources of the country? Who are handling the resources? How equitably are you sharing the resources of Nigeria? This is exactly what we want to come on board and do. I have done this very much in my state, in Kano State. We have been accounting for all that we've been getting from the government, from the resources of government of Kano State, and people are quite happy. They've become convinced that it can be done, and this is exactly what we want to go to the center and prove to the people that it can be done.
I'll ask you about your record in Kano in a moment, particularly in terms of your health policy there, but just looking at the country as a whole, this lack of fair distribution of the country's wealth has led to very serious separatist movements, the Biafran one, but also, most importantly, MEND, the movement for the emancipation of the Niger Delta. Some elements within it say, OK, we have an amnesty, a ceasefire, but still we know they are wreaking havoc.
It's not working.
It's not working. They want a fairer share of the country's wealth because they come from the Niger Delta, where the country's oil is. They're not getting it after all these years.
It's exactly, this is why I kept saying part of the problem of the Nigerian government is a problem of confidence in governance. You see, most of these problems you've mentioned, like the Niger Delta, the MEND, the Biafran crisis, the Boko Harams, and whatever, most of these things are as a result of loss of confidence. People don't trust the leadership at all levels, not talking about the national level. Local government, state level, state government, federal government, most people believe that people in government are there to make money, are there to help themselves, are there to have to service their selfish interests. Now,
I mean, it's true, isn't it?
Well, to some extent, it is true. It is true.
Only to some extent?
It is true, largely, of course, I will say, because the lifestyle of most people who find themselves in offices seem to give this impression.
And young people in particular are really fed up. When you looked at the independence celebrations and all the internet chats that you had in October last year, in particular, the youth said, we're fed up with this old Nigeria. We want a new Nigeria. Do you think that what we've seen in Egypt, Tunisia, other Arab countries could come to sub-Saharan African countries like Nigeria?
Well, I would not be surprised if it comes, if care is not taken, and if we do not collectively join hands together to democratically bring the desired change. And this is what we are offering ourselves to bring for the change. And this is exactly our fear, that the loss of confidence is growing and growing and growing. Different sectors of the society, different sectors of the community. And this is not peculiar to any part of Nigeria. It is a general thing. Every part of the country you move, the general apathy, the general loss of confidence is there. And unless this is restored, you won't have the cooperation and the support of the general public. And this is the beginning of the credibility of any election.
Should Nigeria remain one country? We've seen in southern Sudan the recent referendum, the South has said it wants to break away. Nigeria, after all, created in 1914 when the northern and southern protectorates were brought together with Lagos colony by the British. It's an artificial creation. Why keep it together? You've got these separatist movements I've talked about.
We've come a long way, and over these years, long before the independence, we've so much interwoven together that I believe Nigeria can survive as a single entity, can survive as a nation. All we require, I kept saying, is to get a leadership that will assure the general public.
But not everybody agrees with you on that. I mean, let me give you an example. If you go to an internet forum and look at some of the chats that go on, Adiyinka Ismail from Lagos says, Nigeria has never been a country or a state. It is just a geographical expression formed by the British. So we've not seen ourselves as one because we thought of going our separate ways may be the solution to our numerous problems. I mean, there is a body of opinion.
I think I disagree with him, unfortunately.
But there is a body of opinion that says, look, Nigeria is this artificial creation. It's never had a happy history in 50 years.
I think this is a very wrong impression. Unfortunately, the lack of political stability seems to have given this impression. We've had so many military interventions. We've not experienced a very long period of democratic processes that will assure people there is equity, there is oneness, there is understanding. This is exactly what we've started. In spite of all the turbulence we've had within the last 12 years, and in spite of the poor handling of the PDP government of all our affairs nationwide, there is the general belief by most Nigerians that if you get the right leadership, if you get the right focus, then Nigeria will live together as a single entity.
One big force that is creating a great deal of division within the country is the differences between the Muslims and the Christians. We think it's about half-half, isn't it, in the population, roughly more or less. We've seen, I mean, some estimates say that since 1999, 15,000 people have died in Nigeria as a result of religious clashes. And yet, here you are, a governor of Kano, one of the northern states. You govern through Sharia, Islamic law, and yet you're saying to me you want to be president of a united Nigeria.
This is exactly one of the reasons why we are telling Nigerians to come and see why and how it can be done. Kano, as you know very well, is not predominantly. We have so many Christians living around.
1%?
Well,
of your 10 million population, 1% is Christian.
But at least we have a large population of Christians, particularly in Kano Metropolitan. Since we came into government in 2003, we've never had any crisis. Kano, if you ask anybody who knew what Kano was, will tell you that Kano used to be very volatile. It was spark up at the slightest ignition. But we have been able to institutionalize the spirit of oneness, the spirit of understanding and love between both the Muslims and the non-Muslims. Kano today, I will tell you, is one of the most peaceful states in spite of all the
But you want to govern more than Kano. You want to govern the whole country.
Course,
and the point I'm putting to you, Governor, is how can you say, oh, yes, we're all one Nigeria and I want to govern a united country, when you in your own state govern through Islamic law, which is going to be unacceptable.
No. You see,
but it would be unacceptable to the non-Muslims. They don't like it.
Very many Muslims that live in Kano are living witnesses. We're not imposing any Islamic law on non-Muslims. In fact, what I always say, that the Sharia law is nothing more than being godly in every respect. Everybody being peaceful.
It is supposed to have no jurisdiction over non-Muslims.
Oh, certainly.
But
certainly.
You say certainly, but, you know, BBC reporters on the ground, also Nigeria analysts have said quite clearly that there are several, if not many, examples of non-Muslim business owners, for instance, who complain that they've been targeted by Sharia activists and forced to flee south from the northern states.
No. I think this.
No. But why?
This was in the past. If you ask anybody...
No, this is quite recent. After the wave of the riots in Jos in January and March of 2010, thousands of people were displaced.
No, but not in Kano. This is exactly what I'm...
No, but I'm asking you to... You're saying you want to be a presidential candidate. I'm asking you to give us your view of the entire country.
The point I'm making is that the same therapy that we used in Kano, ensuring equity, ensuring understanding and free atmosphere for all, this is exactly what we want to replicate at the nation.
People don't agree. I said that to you. It goes against
but it's
keeping
very practical.
The country...
It's very practical. It can be seen. We're not coming in to Nigeria to say that, well, Sharia law should be applicable to every part of Nigeria. You see, government is about the people. It's about giving people the aspiration, their anticipation.
All right, but what would you say then to the Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, the playwright author, who has called Sharia a destabilizing force, and the 12 northern states' implementation of Sharia is an act of breaking up the nation? So you've got 36 states in Nigeria, 12 of them, these northern Muslim ones, they've introduced Sharia, and he says it's an act of breaking up the nation.
No. I think with all due respect to my elder statesman, Professor Wole Soyinka, he probably did not get it right. You'll be surprised to know that Wole Soyinka visited us sometime last year in Kano and commended what we are doing in Kano. He said it out to the public. In fact, he made a statement where he was quoted to have said, you are the only man standing. He has come to discover that what was being interpreted as the Sharia law, as the Sharia implementation, is exactly not the correct thing that was on ground. The sum total of it is social justice. And this is what we have established through very many legislation.
Okay, so spell it out for us then. I mean, okay, I'll give you Kaduna State, for instance, another northern Muslim state. In 2000, when people were pressing there to have Sharia law introduced, there were fights on the streets between the Muslims and the Christians who didn't want it.
This is what we want to stop.
So what is it?
This is what we want to stop.
What are you doing then? How can you say to those Christians, where we are Muslim majority populations in the States, we want Sharia law? How does it make them feel? What can you say to them to reassure them?
This is exactly what we said to the Christians in Kano. I kept reminding you that we have a very large population of Christians in Kano who are living in peace. We assured them that this is applicable to the Muslims. It has nothing to do with the rights and the constitutional freedom of the non-Muslims. And this is exactly what we want to assure every Nigerian citizen.
But in practice, how do you do it? In practice, how do you do it? So, for instance, Muslim Nigerians could not run breweries, for instance. Is that what you're saying?
No, why not? Why not?
Muslim Nigerians could own and run breweries.
If he does not recognize that, his religion does not permit that, and he opts to do that, that is his own choice.
So different laws for different people?
The law is there to govern those who accept to be Muslims.
So different laws for different people in this one united country that you want to keep united.
But we are living in peace. What is important, law is about
you may be in
peaceful
Kano,
coexistence.
but not in other parts of Nigeria.
No. This will not be applicable to other parts of Nigeria that have nothing to do with it. So this is something that is applicable to those environments that are willing and ready to have it.
Okay, you said when
in the sum total of it, it brings peace. And what I'm emphasizing to you is that if you come to Kano, ask any Christian. In fact, not too long ago, I got a commendation letter from the headquarters of the Christian Association of Nigeria.
All right, but you were not
appreciating how we were able to live in peace and how we were able to carry everybody along, in spite of the large population of the Muslims in Kano. Okay. Do you know that I have today in my cabinet a Christian? Nobody will ever think in Kano will ever have somebody in the cabinet of Kano State, a non-Hausa speaking, a non-Muslim. I have a Christian.
You say you've been commended for that, but one thing you've not been commended for is back in 2004, when you suspended the polio vaccine program in your state. You led a group of northern governors.
Well, even that, I got a commendation much later, because when I explained...
Do you think you should have been commended for that? You suspended a polio vaccine program. Because, can I just explain that you said...
There was a reason. There was a very good reason.
The reason is, and I can tell you what you said that there was a Western conspiracy.
No, I never said so.
There was a conspiracy to create infertility
I never
in
said so.
Nigerian
I
females.
never said so.
All right,
I never said so.
You suspended the program.
No, the reason we suspended it, when we came on board, we discovered that a lot of speculations have been spread out there in the rural areas that this polio is contaminated. And it went to the point that other vaccines and healthcare programs were being refused, were being rejected by the community. So what we did was we said, okay, if it is the polio that is creating this problem, let's single it out, separate it from other healthcare programs, and then identify it and examine it and come up to the public with genuine, clear explanation, which we did.
For around 10 months, wasn't it? Around 10 months?
Which we did. Yeah, I think it was for 8 months.
About 8 or 9 months. Okay, you suspended the polio vaccine program because you said your local scientists had found traces of hormones in the oral vaccine?
That is not correct. That is not correct.
Why did you suspend it?
We suspended so that the general public will be properly sensitized. You see, we were faced
What do you mean properly sensitized?
We were faced with two evils. The evil of not explaining and getting the details to explain to the general public to their satisfaction, which will lead to total rejection of not only the polio vaccine, but all other vaccines.
You're making this very unclear.
The evil of a delay.
You're making this very unclear. Basically, the fact is this, Governor. You, as Governor in Kano, suspended the polio vaccine program run by the World Health Organization, whose Director General at the time, Lee Jong-wook, said the boycott had placed thousands of African children at risk.
But you see,
true or not?
No, it's not a question of an action. You have to find out why the action was taken.
Well, you did that action, though, didn't you?
No, I did.
You did it.
But I explained to you why we had to do that.
You also said in February 2004, quoted in the Vanguard, a Nigerian newspaper, it is a lesser of two evils to sacrifice 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 children to polio than allow hundreds or thousands or possibly millions of girl children likely to be rendered infertile.
No, I didn't say that.
You did say that.
I didn't
it's in black and white. It was picked up by news agencies.
Well, newspapers can say anything.
Were you misquoted?
I was misquoted. What did
you mean to say?
What I said was that, you see, it agreed during the period of suspension, some few other children will be affected. I said it is a lesser evil compared to the fact that if we do not take any action to convince the general public of the safety of the vaccine, after going through all the processes of explanation, then there will be millions of children that will be affected by polio.
The infertility.
No, we never raised that. I never said...
As a result of your actions, though, Governor, 259 children contracted polio.
No, but you will discover that in the end, we were commended for taking the lead in explanation and getting all the scientists to give us all the details. Why we had to do that was to ensure that the general public are very well sensitized, and we remove the wrong impression that the polio vaccine was
But the damage was done. 259 children were infected in Kano State.
Well, it's true, but the table now has changed.
But isn't that tragic? Isn't that you are
very
the father?
tragic enough.
You are the father of 13 children yourself. Can you imagine if one of those children, God forbid, was one of those?
But it was as a result of trying to save other millions that you see.
So it was worth sacrificing the 259 children.
Even sacrificing one child isn't a good reason enough. But what we're saying is, here we come into the arena, we discovered that the entire healthcare program was collapsing. Virtually most of the...
Say that we're joined by our viewers on BBC World for what will be the final takeoff for the Space Shuttle Discovery over in the United States. Andy Gallagher's there for us now, live. Andy, it looks as if we've got a minute and a half left or so?
Something like that. Everything's been going well all day, despite a few problems. As Jonathan said, there is only a tiny window to get this right. There have been months and months of delays, but it now looks like that occasion will happen. The weather here in Florida is just about perfect, and we're just hearing the countdown there. We've got a minute and a half left. So I think for the 40,000 people watching, all the NASA people that have been involved in the Space Shuttle program, it is really the beginning of the end. There are now only 3 left in the fleet, and the Discovery, as Jonathan was saying, is really looked upon as the elder statesman, the one that's clocked up more miles than anything else. It took the Hubble telescope up in 1990, something that really changed the way we look at the universe. So we are now watching a moment in history, I think, as the Discovery takes off, and in 11 days' time, it's difficult to think this thing will end up in a museum in just a few weeks' time. So it is a sad, tinged occasion, but I think something people will enjoy, because certainly more people than normal are coming to